You see, this is the wrong mindset if you want to get to a free place in your life. Is it, well, it's just the answers all around us? No, the answer might actually be within you. It might be what you already have. See, I would argue that the problem isn't that we have nothing. The real problem is that we aren't willing to change anything. It's not that we don't have anything. It's that the truth is we're just not willing to change, you know. Well, we want to get out of debt. I mean, this year we're going to be real serious. We're going to get out of debt. Well, you might have to actually cut out some things out of your life and your budget. What do you mean, cut out some things? Well, you know how you go out to eat every single day for lunch, but you're in debt a lot? I got an idea. Why don't you pack your lunch? What? Yeah, you could brown bag it. It's okay. I know you're 38 years old and you're working, but it's all right to brown bag your lunch. Why don't you pack your lunch? You might save $40 a week, which over a year time is $2,000. Hey, wouldn't it be nice to pay down your debt $2,000? That might actually help free you up a little bit. You see, the problem isn't that we have nothing. Can I be honest with you? The problem is we're not willing to change anything. Well, I want to get out of debt. Okay, that's fine. Well, then why don't you cancel one of your 17 streaming services? What do you mean? Well, you know how you have Netflix and you have Hulu and you have YouTube TV and you have Peacock and you have CBS's, I don't know what they all are, and you have HBO Max, and you have, because you just don't know what you're going to want to watch that day, and so you just need to have all your options available to you. Hey, I have an idea. Why don't you cut it all back and maybe just use one? Maybe some rabbit ears. You guys remember rabbit ears? When I was a kid, I don't even know if you can do rabbit ears. The HD antenna, you could do that. You buy one for $20, you could cut all of them. Now, we can't live without cable. Yeah, I know. That's how the rest of the world operates. And they're also miserably in debt. If you want to live different, you're going to have to do some things different. And it's not that you couldn't have all those things. It might be for a season while you get back out of it. Because otherwise, we're going to be tempted to think like this woman. What is this woman? She said, well, I don't have anything. Oh, well, I guess a small jar of oil. How much is that worth? That's not going to go very far. See, these are things that we say to ourselves that always leave us trapped in a financial mess. Well, we don't really make that much. We don't really have that much. We don't have that much to save. It's just, how far is this going to go? This is make a few meals and that's it. Saute up something. This isn't very much. Here's where I want you to see a divine truth in this story. Sometimes it feels like we don't have very much, but what we don't realize is that your little bit in God's hands can create some supernatural flow in your life. Did you know that? Your little bit, putting God's, didn't Jesus show us that? Hey, what do you have? We got all these people that are hungry. What do you have? We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Bring it to me. You take what's little bit you've got, you put it into my hands, let me bless it, let me multiply it. And so this woman, she said, I only have a small jar. Well, I don't have much. It's pretty much nothing. Elisha said, that's not nothing. You got something. God can work with a little. Can you hear me? I only have a little bit of faith. Can I tell you something? God can work with a little. I only have a little bit of hope for my life. God can work with a little. God only needs a little if you'll give it to him by faith. And so here's what the prophet said. I love this. Look at this. Verse 3. Then Elisha said, go around and ask all your neighbors for what? Everybody say it, for empty jars. Don't just ask for a few. Be a little bold. Ask for, hey, do you got anything? What do you got? What do you got? No, what about that thing right there? You know what I mean? Don't ask for a few. Then go inside, shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side. And she left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. And they brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. And when all the jars were full, she said to her son, bring me another one. But he replied, there's not a jar left. Then the oil stopped flowing. Go get some empty jars. Go get you some empty jars. We got some oil, but we need something to put it in. This is what the man of God said to her. Go get some empty jars. And so what did they do? She went around and they started asking all the neighbors, do you have empty jars? Now, can I just tell you, it's not asking for a handout. I think sometimes we get into a difficult financial place and we're ready for somebody to bail us out. Maybe the government will bail us out. Maybe some parents will bail us out. No. The answer to what you have is not getting bailed out. It's not a handout, but it is maybe asking for some help. I need some help. She said, go ask for some empty jars. Don't not the ones they're already using, but go ask for a bunch of jars. Now, what do the jars represent? Go get you some empty jars. And I thought about this story, and I think there's a beautiful picture in it. You see, God is always longing to fill what we will give to him that is empty. We give him some empty space to room. Can I just tell you that some of us, we are asking and hoping and wanting God to do a miracle in our life, wanting God to do a miracle in our marriage, wanting God to do a miracle in our finances. I would ask this question: are you giving God the room to do a miracle? Are you making space for God to do a miracle? How do I make space for God to do a miracle? It's called faith. Faith means that I don't know, I'm going to create room. I don't know how it's going to happen. You're telling me, man of God, that I'm supposed to get a bunch of empty jars and I just start pouring, and as I pour, you're telling me that I'm going to fill them all up? What I'm saying is that we might need to create space with our faith. No, don't ask for a few. I need a lot of jars. Go around and ask all your neighbors. No, you're not using it. I need it. Why? Because here's what faith is. Faith is creating space for God to work in your life. Faith is when you go first saying, I don't know why I need a bunch of empty jars. I got nothing to fill it. But when you do that, that's when you see God's miraculous power begin to flow through your life. And see, most of us, we got it backwards. God, give me a bunch of oil. God said, where am I going to put it? How can I trust you with more oil than this thing holds if you won't create space for me to work? You see, sometimes we want God to bring the blessing, but we won't, by faith, create room for him to operate. And so she did all of that. And look what verse 7 says. She went and she told the man of God, you're never going to believe I just kept pouring. I just kept pouring and pouring and pouring, and it didn't stop until I finished filling the last jar. She told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil, pay your debts. You and your son can live on what's left. Now, that's a verse, if you had your Bible, I would underline. I would mark it up, because there's a paradigm in 2 Kings 4:7 for operating our finances that will enable you to experience freedom. It's a real simple paradigm. I'm going to just give it to you and I'm done. 3 quick things. I'm just going to rattle them off. The first one is this. The first step, collect empty jars. You go, I want to experience financial freedom. Okay. Here's what I would tell you. Go collect some empty jars. What does that mean? That means you got to take a step of faith. And here's the problem. Here's what we say. Well, when I get into a better financial place, then I'll give to God. When we get out of debt, we pay it down, then we're going to do this. When we get a raise, then we're going to. You know, I have found that we say that, but we don't mean it, because I've been saying that my whole life. But here's what I found. Every time I just make more, I spend more. That's what we do. And so we keep saying, God, when it happens, when I get into a better place, when we do, like the story I shared last week, the husband that was like, we can't be giving a tithe now, we don't have the money. She said, but that's the time to give it. That's empty jar living. That's having faith. That's saying, God, I'm gonna create space for you to do it. Why? Because my little bit with God is worth a whole lot more than mine on my own. And so I'm gonna start with faith. See, I really believe it's a key. You wanna get out of debt? Have the blessing of God in your life. It makes a big difference. Collect empty jars. The second thing is this: prioritize paying off your debts. That becomes your new number one mission. You and your spouse on the same page, family on the same page. Number one mission: pay off our debts. That means anything that is extra is going to pay off our debts. And if you want real practical steps for doing this, go to Financial Peace University. They'll help you. It really will help. Prioritize it. Well, okay, but but we've been talking about going to Europe and this big family. That sounds great. That's a great way to also keep going further into debt if you don't have it. By the way, if you want to go on a really great vacation, can I make just a real small suggestion? This is just so sidebar. This is not what the message is about. Maybe you're just going to hate this, throw it away if you don't want to, but here's an idea. Save for it. I know, one person's excited. The rest of you are like, what? Why would I? God blessed me with one of these. Why wouldn't I use it? Save for, I know it's crazy. Prioritize paying off your debts. That becomes your new number one financial mission, okay? So I'm gonna pay off all my debt. It may not be your house, okay, that may take you 20 years, that may whatever, but start paying off all that unsecured debt that you have, all the clothing stuff you've been buying, all this. You stop that, I'm not gonna do that anymore, I'm gonna pray. And then here's the third step, so important. Live on what's left. That's what the man of God said. This is so simple. All I'm doing is telling you straight from God's word. This seems so simple. That's what he said to her. Collect empty jars. God did a miracle. Go pay off your debts. Live on what's left. Live on what's left. Live on what's left. I feel like a broken record. Live on what's left. Live on what's left. What does it mean to live on what's left? It means I'm not going to live beyond what we make. I'm going to honor God first. I'm going to get my emergency fund. I'm going to pay off my debt, and then I'm going to live on what's left. And if we could get this concept, can I tell you what it would mean? This is my hope for all of us, is that we would understand what it means to have empty jars and be fully free. I'm going to have empty jars, faith, but I'm going to live fully free because I'm going to trust in the blessing of God. I'm going to walk in the favor of God. He's going to help me get out of debt. And when I do that, what's that going to do? That's going to free our family up where, guess what? We're not going to be fighting about finances all the time. I'm not going to be so stressed that we're not going to make it at the end of this month. What is that going to do? It might actually change your family dynamic. It might actually create an opportunity to become even more generous, to continue to walk in the flow of God's blessing in your life. It's my heart's desire. The reason why I talk about this, I know that maybe even this sits kind of like, man, I feel like this is a little in your face, and it's because I care so deeply about you. I want a church where we're living fully free, where we're not living like the rest of culture. Because I'm telling you, you live like that, you're going to live with the same stress and worry and anxiety. And I just don't believe that that's God's plan and intention for us. And so I want to make sure I manage not just what I already have that's in my hands, but I want to manage what isn't in my hands.